is that realization of something that was written. And when those 9,000 U.S. colored troops from Illinois and New York got off the boat in Galveston, Texas, and those people who have been working in the fields, and they actually got there June the 18th. They got off the boat June the 18th. They were forced to get off the boat because they were on their way to Mexico to defend America. And they got off the boat and they saw what was going on. These are the same people who captured General Lee at Appomattox. These are the same brothers who marched through the day and the night to get the job done, right? And they saw what was going on in Texas. The Gallops had actually heard it first because there were some black sailors who were on the boats out there trying to get in. They said, "Hey, let this on." They said, "Oh, yeah, really? Okay, here we go." And they went back and told the Ranger, "You need to fix this." So he issued General Order Number 3 to let them know. But the vast majority of us, sure, some of us found out about it, was supposed to read chapel, but the vast majority of us saw hundreds, thousands of black men in blue uniforms with U.S. on their chests and guns telling you you're free. Right. That was a celebration. So despite whatever else goes on around the country different days, Dr. Frank Smith, my good friend, if you ever get a chance to go to Washington, D.C., see the African American Civil War Museum, it's a great place to go. He said, despite whatever history says, no matter what comes up, something special happened that day because it's 156 years later, and we're still doing it. So, with that in mind, I want you to leave real quick, say that Juneteenth, that's the history. That's part of the history that was there. But what we need to be concerned with is the power of Juneteenth, as Dr. Goodyear said, to take us forward, the future of Juneteenth. What does it mean? What does it mean for America? We have to get America aware that, hey, slavery was real, that those were people, not slaves, that you brought from Africa. You need to teach that in our schools. And don't say they brought slaves from Africa, they brought people who were enslaved. That was a runaway slave. When he was running, he can't run away from who he is, so I guess he's still a slave when he gets finished running. Most likely it was a person running away from a slavery system. We need to get that verbiage clear. That's part of the power of Juneteenth. Cooperative economics. Black Wall Street, they talk about it. Well, Black Wall Street was born from Juneteenth. Let's put the dots together. June 14, 1866 in Oklahoma, the treaty was signed in 1866, freeing the last of the enslaved people in the North American continent, America, the United States, its territory, Oklahoma. They were given rights to land and to vote, and they built towns, they built cities, they traded amongst each other from Langston, Oklahoma, from Edward P. McKay starting that town, all the way up to Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where there was different types of black people. There were some who were free. There were Black Creek Indians who had never been enslaved. There were some who were freedmen who were enslaved by the Native Americans. And there were some who were enslaved by the United States and their system. And they all converged upon the land of Lincoln here, and they worked together without any problems. Any problems. They built this economy, and they didn't think it was going to happen like that. By 1907, they said, "Oh, whoa, hold on a second. These black people that built an economy, that found oil, and that made some money, yeah, we got to make this a state and get Jim Crow laws in there and stop that." By 1921, after two previous encounters in the Red Summer, they had to drop bombs on them black men because they couldn't go head to head with them. That's what happened. Seriously, this first aerial bombing was there in Tulsa. And even after they burned it down, they didn't kill it because by the end of the year they rebuilt the Black Wall Street. They were mourning the lives lost, that they continued with the economic excellence up until the 40s. This is the self-advocacy of Juneteenth that can be brought to America by harnessing all its people and all its citizens. Business understands that because they've been getting the message about the self-agency. Now the United States government, our biggest oppressor, needs to do a real acknowledgement. So go to Juneteenth.us, sign the petition, send it around to everybody you know, contact you, and if you have anything else you need to go to www.njof.org and look around. petition join us. Dr. G, I really appreciate you, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
On television, when you're watching court TV or any of the recent court cases, they always have expert witnesses. Every area has an expert witness. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have just met the foremost expert on Juneteenth. He is recognized by the 1600 Commission and the Libraries of Congress as being an authority on Juneteenth. So we're very happy to have him with us today, all the way from the East Coast to come and share our story. It's a hot Sunday afternoon. We were supposed to be outside standing in the sun. I had tons of water and some snacks for you. We couldn't bring them in the auditorium. But our program is going to be very brief today. As you depart, I want you to pick up some snacks. If you walked here from the church, take a couple of extra on your journey back. I have to thank a few people who helped us. And before I do that, I just want to let you know that this is a continuum of activities and programs in celebration of Juneteenth 2021. During this coming week, we will have flag raisings and programs in the various municipalities in this community. Next weekend, right here in this facility, beginning at 8 a.m., Juneteenth, Nevada is beginning its celebration, a 2-day marathon celebration with a massive 2,000-pound food drive that will be distributed beginning at 8 a.m. right behind the theater here. Then after that, we have a complete day of programming, activities, family-oriented that would deal with the history, the culture of Juneteenth. More specific, we have more speakers who give you more information about Juneteenth. We'll have entertainment. All of that will be going on both Friday and Saturday of next week in our celebration of Juneteenth. And of course, there is another organization called Juneteenth, Nevada, and they have an event each year, and their event will be next Saturday night, Juneteenth, in the field behind this auditorium. So go to our YouTube site, watch your television all this week. We'll be having advertisement. I'm sure we'll have some pass outs after you leave out of here today that'll give you more information about our schedule. Right now, I'd like to thank a few people. First of all, I'd like to thank the St. James Catholic Church, and I see the pastor is here. Wave, Father. Father Ben, thank you very much for your support in providing with us a place where we began our Freedom Walk, and that Freedom Walk was coordinated by the Knights of Peter Claver here, Brother Bruce Sampson. He's the district director, and our coordinator is Mr. Hugh Jones. Thank you very much for helping us put our walk together. I'd be remiss if I didn't call to attention to a young man in our audience who is a former state assemblyman here. And you don't have to get up, because I know for a fact that you're on July 16th, you'll be 80 years old. All right, quit telling my age, he says. Don't even get up. But a year after that, I'll be joining you in the 4-score category. But listen, this gentleman, 10 years ago, while in the assembly of the Nevada legislature, introduced a bill to have Juneteenth recognized as a holiday in the state of Nevada. Harvey Mumford, thank you very much for your effort. And I want to thank all of you, if they're elected elected officials here, I apologize. I know, let me see the hands of persons who came from somewhere other than Las Vegas Valley for today's function. Raise your hand. Thank you, Mr. Williams, who was recognized. Oh, okay. One of our featured speakers in our activity yesterday, and a performer on our Friday night show, so he's been quite a contributor. He's a world famous musician. He's a businessman. He's been to Africa 82 times, and he told us about that yesterday. Greet Mr. Damon Baptiste from New Orleans, Louisiana, of the famous Baptiste Brothers Band. And last but not least, I noticed that a lot of the people, a group that was from out of town, were sitting here because they are my family. Stand up, my wife, Beverly, her 7 children, our 7 children, and our grandchildren. Stand up, please. Stand up, please. Thank you. Sit down. Okay, in the scheme of things, yesterday in our classroom, what they didn't teach you in school, for 3 hours, we had a session where we communicated with those who were in our audience about the history, the culture, and the contributions that not just African people, but that people of the world have made, not just to this country, but to the world. And one of the major problems we've identified is our school system fails to give us the information that allows us to be exposed to the history, the culture, and the contributions that we as African people have made to this country and to the world. Juneteenth is going to be the catalyst where I see us as a people going back to the 60s. I'm a student of the 60s. In the 60s, I was in high school and college. I know what black pride is. I know what black pride could be. That's why I went around to every church in this community.
Amen. We 65 right here. Class of 65. So keep talking.
Oh, I thought you said you were 65 years old, but I know you well into your 70s. Oh, okay. Here's a youngster over here. He's telling me he's in the class of 65. Thank you, brother. All right. So the point is that we have lost our way. As a people, I was sharing with you the exuberance and excitement I felt as a youngster in the 60s, learning about black pride. And everybody, including me, had a great big bush. Is that not right there? And I wore dashiki, and I see none of that today. I do not see any outward manifestation of our African ancestry. And W.E.B. Du Bois says we will not separate our American heritage from our African ancestry. It is what makes us who we are. And if you don't know where you've come from, you won't have any idea where you're going. Juneteenth is going to be the wake-up call for us as African Americans to get to our rightful place in this country. And it will begin by each of us teaching our children that we are the descendants of kings and queens to whom monuments built thousands of years ago in Africa still exist. And my little grandchildren sit here, you're all princes and princesses. And one day, you'll all be kings and queens yourself. But to get where I am, you've got to study. You've got to go to school. And you can't do it without a family. And ladies and gentlemen, I could not have had this activity here today without the loving support of you, my family here in Las Vegas. So please give yourselves a big round of applause. In conclusion, I'd like to introduce a young lady who is currently the CEO of Juneteenth, Nevada. She's been the person who's made out all the schedules, so she's the perfect person to share with you the specific information about the dates and times in our activities that we're going to be holding during the next week. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce to our audience Ms. Dee Evans.
Thank you. As I said before the walkers arrived, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. And while I'm being relegated possibly to being the calendar girl, let me tell you a little bit about the background of Juneteenth, Nevada, because it goes back 11 years. 11 years ago, we had our first meeting in this building next door at over the library side. We had a little bit of room, we had a little bit of program. We had some people. One of our features performers that I spoke about last night is Keith Brantley and Griot Nation. They've been with us for the entire 11 years. Dr. Myers, who was the founder of the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, drove in from Mississippi to get us started. Our first event here was actually a Martin Luther King event in January of 2010. We followed that with one event outside Sunset Park, never tried that one again, 116 degrees, and that was yes, thank you. Oh, but we all remember that. My husband tried to quit me that day. I made a mistake and asked him to cook the night before, so he had spent the day before the 116, we did ribs and barbecue and chicken and potatoes. We did the whole thing. And he said, you will never get me to do this again. And he was right. I knew better. But we had a great day that day. We're under the trees. We gave our first award to Believe the Law. He was our first of our notable awards, our legacy winners. This year we will be giving awards number 50. So we have continued to recognize the legacy of the West Las Vegas area. And we will go forward. We gave a couple awards last week to Catherine Duncan at the Harrison House. We're going to do Jesse, Minister Jesse over at the barbershop, who is 94, 95 years old, I believe. He's going to get one. And we have a number of other folks, but it will come to 50, 52 awards before we finish. Year number 2, we were out there in the library. We spent the first 3 or 4 years with just a few seats in the library, but Dr. Myers came back again. And that year, we had a state bill. The May of 2011, we were able to stand next to the Governor Sandoval, and watch him sign the Juneteenth state bill, which was introduced by Assemblyman Munford. Thank you for giving us the faith that we could get it done, because they had tried it once before and it had not happened. So 2011, we got a state bill. Now, next time we have the assembly, we're going for a state holiday, because now that's becoming the trend. We have New York, we have Pennsylvania, we have Texas, which started it. We have Illinois that just came last week. Hawaii just joined us. They're going to be they have a state day of observance, and they get signed on Tuesday the 16th. We have Juneteenth representatives in all 50 states, and we have 49 of them have bills. We only need one more state for every state in this country to recognize Juneteenth. So if you have family in South Dakota, call them and tell them to get in touch with their representative and say you want a Juneteenth bill in South Dakota. Meanwhile, in Washington, Mr. Williams, our president, our National Juneteenth Observance Foundation president, he is working with our congressman, he's working with Danny Davis, he's working with a number of representatives there. As you heard, last year we had 99 out of 100 votes. We always had unanimous. But this year in February, we reintroduced legislation to recognize Juneteenth. We have in the Senate S 475, and in the House we have HR 1320. We need you to contact all of your elected officials and tell them to continue to sponsor the Juneteenth legislation, to speak to their coordinates and to the people that they're working with in the other states. We need at least half of those House of Representatives to come through. We have a way to go. And Juneteenth is next weekend. So we need a push. We need you to contact people. We need you to call the local office here in Las Vegas. We need you to contact those in Washington and tell them we want a Juneteenth bill. And again, coming back to Las Vegas, as I said, we spent about 5 years in the lobby, and one day they said, would you like the auditorium? We're like, yeah, can we do that? And we did. And we've been in here ever since. We've had it filled, we've had it half filled. Last year, COVID tried to get us. Libraries closed up. So we said, well, we'll just do a flag raising. Doc always told me, if you don't do anything else, have a footprint. Do a flag raising and be done with it. I have a team that did not let me quit last year. They said, we're going to go back outside. Like, oh no, not again. They said, yeah, we are. I said, okay. Show me what you want. Last year we were out at Craig Ranch Regional Park out in North Las Vegas. We told them that we were going to get 300, 400 people equivalent to what you have here, what you can have in this room. Last year, we got over 3,000 people coming out for Juneteenth. Next year, with COVID as out of our heads, and we have time to plan and not be able to release at the last minute for a full house. Next year, this room is going to be filled. Next year, we're going to have other things going on. But this year we have flag raisings in Reno, and we have a flag raising. We have North Las Vegas, South Las Vegas. We're all over. We're going to be in Henderson. We're going to have the flag slide over 3 city halls in this area this week. North Las Vegas, Henderson, and downtown Las Vegas will have the Juneteenth flag fly overhead. We're not the orphan holiday anymore. People are recognizing us. They're seeing our value. Unfortunately, what it took to get our value was the death of the young man last year, but we're going to take advantage of that and get recognition for not only him, but for everyone that has died over the last 400 years. We're going to get recognition for those that were enslaved, those that came in as indentured workers, and they got their freedom and went forward. We're going to get recognition of all the sailors and the soldiers that fought in every skirmish, every war that has been in this country. We're going to fight, and we're going to get recognition for those in Texas that were freed by the U.S. colored troops who told General Granger, you do something or we will. And now the people in Galveston and the descendants say, June 19th is the day the black men came to town with guns and gave us our freedom. Not the white man. We weren't given anything. We earned everything that we have. And we're going to hang on to it. Do you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
We've got to teach our children. We've got to teach our children's first teachers, the parents. And Dr. Gurrier will tell you that his specialty is parenting. So we've got to get the history right. And at the national level, and I'm part of both the national and the Las Vegas level of the International Juneteenth Organization, we have an education group. And we're researching, we're vetting all the information. We're not putting it out unless we can prove it, and we have full records. We have full newspaper articles. And so we ask you to join us, and if you have family heirlooms or stories about Juneteenth, we ask you to share them with us so we can share them with the country, with the world. We have Juneteenth celebrations in Guam. We have Juneteenth in Ghana, Japan, and Mexico. This is a worldwide effort. It is not just Texas. The people that were in Texas, the U.S. colored troops that were there, they came from New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Indiana. And when we go back to Illinois, let's look at this here. Abraham Lincoln, Illinois attorney, before he became president. In 1841, He went to the Illinois Supreme Court to get freedom for a young lady. Took 3 tries, but he got her freedom. And at that time, she had an infant, 10 months old. Name was William. Well, 1865, William was one of those colored troops that was at Galveston. All things Juneteenth. It all boils back down to where we started. We come back to Juneteenth. A year later, June of 1866, the 5 so-called civilized nations signed treaties. They had enslaved people in the Western territories a year after June of 1865. And those people got their freedom. And as Steve said, they went on and found 88, 89 towns in the Western territories, which later became Oklahoma. And one of those towns was Tulsa. Has anyone heard of Tulsa lately? 100 years we're commemorating the tragedy of Tulsa, Oklahoma. But we're also celebrating 100 years of New York, where we have the Harlem Renaissance. So we have a balance. We have 100 years of good and 100 years of bad. We're recognizing it all this year. And we're going to go forward. We're going to teach. We're going to learn. We're going to share. And we have a Saturday call, which is on uberconference.com/Juneteenth or 720-453-2464. And we can give you that later. But there's a conference call. I would like to invite you to our National Juneteenth Conference Call, which we hold every Saturday at 10 a.m. our time. Come in, listen to what we're doing across the country, participate, or just pass on the word, and go forward. And again, I'd like to welcome you to not only Juneteenth, the valid celebration of Juneteenth, but the Samuel L. Smith Educational Foundation, the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, and I'd like to thank our sponsors. I'm sure if you come down, what street is that? Martin Luther King. You see a big sign on the street, 6 feet by 18 feet with a big star on it. That was a gift to us from Mr. McCurdy, William McCurdy Sr. He's given us the use of that to publicize because he wants to help us get the word out. We have Caesars Entertainment that helps get our musicians a roof over their head this weekend. And boy, if you were not in Henderson last night, night before, you missed it. You missed a heck of a show. We had 2 bands that came and were talking about the history of the music. From the belly of the slave ship, we did African drums, which we had today. We had Caribbean dance. We had spoken word. We had jazz, and we had funk. And next week,